everybody, this is Ryan on the pooperdix channel, and I'm here just to show y'all a new Goblin deck I just made. It's a kind of a hybrid. I was starting to follow this and then I just went my own path, my own direction on it. It's pretty straightforward and fun and simple, so let's get to it. Much like a lot of the Pauper decks I've seen, it runs 4 copies of good old quality removal burn, lightning bolt, 1 mana, instant, 3 damage creature or player. Got 4 of those in the deck. And then along with it we have 2 Fire Blast from good old days of Visions. And this one you can pay 6, or you can sack 2 mountains to deal 4 damage to target creature or player, instant speed again. Really good finishing piece. Was using Reckless Abandon in the deck for a minute, but I moved on from that. I may move back to it again. But this is a token deck. I like the idea of making tokens. I don't know if you didn't see the original early testing of this deck, but it was explosive on the token making, which I may have to bring some numbers up to 4 of. But anyway, we got 3 copies of Eager Wellspring. It's just good value and something for Kadathal Rebirth to target. Let's talk about these 2 cards before we move on. There's 4 copies of Kadathal Rebirth. This copy is a 1-drop sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Kadathal Rebirth, you must sacrifice an artifact, and then you can put 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens onto the battlefield. So it's a little better than playing a Dark Ritual turn 1 and playing 3 creatures out of your hand. And, a lot of value. You're going to be top decking. You don't want to run out of cards when you're playing aggro. So this is perfect for aggro, if you ask me. And then, of course, with that is Eager Wellspring. There's 3 copies in the deck, although I did run 4 for a minute there. When it's put into the battlefield, when it enters the battlefield or leaves, you draw a card. Alright, and then the other token maker is the new goodie, Goblin Gathering. It's a sorcery. It costs 2 and a red. There we go. Creates a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to 2 plus the number of cards named Goblin Gathering in your graveyard. So first one 2, second one 3, third one 4, 5. Not bad. 5 for 3. It's worth paying 3 for 2 to get 5 for 3. So there's 4 of them in the library. We got 3 copies of Burn Bright. This one's instant. Creatures get +2/+0. Great finisher when you got a buttload of tokens on the field not being blocked. Or even better, we have 2 Rites of Initiation. Discard any number of cards random from your hand. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until the end of turn for each card discarded this way. Also a good finisher. Even though sometimes you want to get, within a couple of points of damage before they can do anything. So sometimes I've dropped almost opening hands with that card. Then for more pump, we're also running 3 copies of Goblin Bushwhacker. Could go up to 4 on this, as with the other 2. Come on, focus. Focus. There you go. Red. Kicker red. 1/1. If you pay the kicker for 2, all creatures creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So that's really special. Sometimes it's easy to forget the haste part and just remember that all your creatures get +1/+0 when you're in the middle of in the thick and thin of it. Don't forget that guy gets haste. Because I did one game. Anywho, where is this? Focus at. Focus, focus, focus. There we go. Got one copy of Frenzied Goblin for defense. You can pay a red when he attacks to prevent a creature from blocking. We're running 4 copies of Mog War Marshal. Pay close attention to this. Echo cost of also 2. Come on, focus. There we go. 4 copies of him. When he enters the battlefield or dies, put a 1/1 red goblin creature token onto the battlefield. I never really pay the echo cost, but there are games where you want to pay the echo cost to keep the board presence thick. Then we're running 3 copies of Mog Conscripts. They cannot attack unless you have successfully cast a creature spell this turn. So they're a bit of a pain in the butt. 2/2 for 1 though. Ain't bad trade-off, usually, since most of the spells are casting creatures. We got 2 copies of Mog Flunkies. They can't attack or block. They're 3/3 for 1 in red. And they can't attack or block unless another creature you control attacks or blocks, depending on what you're trying to do. 2 of them. And we got 2 Goblin Cohort, much like Mog Conscripts. Same exact card. So, and then we also have 3 copies of Foundry Street Denizen. He is a 1/1, and whenever another red creature enters the battlefield under your control, Foundry Street Denizen gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So when you're casting, say, 5 goblin tokens for that last goblin gathering, that's not bad. Especially if you've maybe Rites of Initiation out like 2 or 3 already, and just, I don't know, there's possibilities there. It needs some tweaking, folks. I ain't gonna lie. It ain't perfect. But it was fun, and I got my ass handed to me from Boggles and is it Control, Scred, whatever you want to call it. Okay, for land, we're playing 2 Sandstone Needle. Comes into play with 2 depletion counters on it. Comes into play tapped. When you tap it, you get 2 red mana. So, extra explosive there. We got 4 Great Furnace artifact land. So, something else there for Kadathal Rebirth to target. Also, you know, Rites of Initiation, if you can't target an artifact, works great with Kadathal Rebirth. Then we're running 14 Mountain, and that's the deck. Sideboard, we're running 2 copies of Flame Slash. Sorcery speed, deal 4 damage to target creature. Not that great. Not that bad. 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus for Delver and Delve and Tortured Existence. And usually what you want to do is take out like a Cohort, a Conscript, maybe a Fire Blast, maybe a Flunky, maybe a Rite of Initiation, or maybe a Kadathal Rebirth, or Ichor Wellspring, depending on whether or not you want to go faster or slower. We got 2 copies of Electrickery for Mirror Match, Elves, and other annoying decks like Bogles and Delver. 2 copies of Pyroblast for Mono Blue decks or Tron decks, running blue. Yeah, you can't read that, whatever. Pyroblast, look it up. 2 copies of Goblin Caves for extra protection on game 2. You usually want to put this in on game 2 for Electrickery sideboards. Most decks have electricity in the sideboard for decks such as this. So you're going to want to put the Goblin Caves in exchange for, say, a Sandstone Needle, a Cadothal Rebirth, a Burn Bright even. Just pick 2 things, depending on how your first match went. Smash to the Smithereens for Affinity and Tron. And also Boros. Destroy target artifact, and they take 3 damage for 1 in a red. Then we got Flaring Pain. It's much the answer to Prismatic Strands, as well as Moment of Peace. So this is good against basically Boros. I don't think anybody's playing Turbo Fog these days, but you may run into a Turbo Fog deck, in which case these are good for that too. Or Mono White. And that, folks, is the Goblin deck. I had to document it because I'm fixing to tear it apart and build a different Goblin deck. And some other good cards that could be used in this Goblin build if you guys are just kind of loosely following at home. These are ideas I had. Beetleback Chief was a good one. Had a couple of him in there at first. Extra Token Maker. Reckless Abandon. Wouldn't recommend running foreign copies, which is all I have other than 1 English copy. It's not a card I'm highly familiar with, so I ran 2 and kept 1 on the side to read, but yeah. Anywho, of course you could go up to 4 of any of these aforementioned cards. You could also run a Sparksmith. He's good in the sideboard as well. Tap him to deal X damage to a number of creatures in play, and X to you. Let's go to some of the more advanced cards. I started looking through my red collection that was unsleeved, and I realized I had this. +1, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control. That could get explosive in this deck. Of course I have 4 of those. Goblin Warstrike. Goblin Warstrike deals damage equal to the number of goblins you control to target player. It's a sorcery, and it costs 1 red. I definitely would include that in the future builds of this deck. Maw-Grater, which is also a good inclusion. Sacrifice a goblin, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I would even maybe replace maybe the denizens for him, because if you got a shitload of tokens and they only got like 3 or 4 creatures on play, and then you can just sack all your creatures to 1 goblin for a finisher. Especially with this guy. Discovered him at the shop. Come on, focus. Sacrifice a goblin, regenerate target creature. Not bad when you're playing all goblins. Kind of a good reason to play all goblins. Swirling Sandstorm would be a good main border for just board wipe, unless you're playing against blue-white flying. Spark Spitter, considered it, but I didn't actually use it. Flunkies. Terminate, yeah, I'm going somewhere different with that Terminate. That's a different list I was looking at. Yep, and that's all I'm going to show you guys for today. Thanks, take care. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those things while you're at it out there in the future land and such. And I'll keep playing Pauper. Thanks. Bye.